It is Tuesday, August 29th, 2023 at 7 o'clock. And we'll start roll call to my left.
Homer, City Council Member.
Shelley Carcelari, City Council Member.
Oh, Ronnie Price, Mayor.
Troy Tabor, council member.
Tim Berry, council member.
Buck Buchanan, Chief.
Donna Davis, Chief Financial Officer.
Lance Onstott, Assistant City Administrator.
Emily Wright, filling in for City Clerk.
Chad Russell, Fire Chief.
JT Klaus, City Attorney.
Les Mangus, Director of Community Development.
Jennifer McCausland, City Administrator, and yes, we've got your two on the screen.
All right.
Mike Warrington's here, City Council Member.
Dr. Joseph Ford, City Council Member.
So we have two council members joining us on Zoom in case you're wondering what's going on. And this time we'll have Ben Griffin of Hope Community Church lead us in invocation. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful.
Good to be here. Let's pray. Father, we come before you, Lord, in humility. Lord, this would be a time where we make decisions, where we consult, where we talk, Lord, just that you would receive the praise. Lord, that your scripture says that you are in all things. And so I pray that, Father, we would recognize that, we would see that. Lord, we ask also that we would just come in humility as we seek to just know what you would ask of us. Lord, you call us to be peacemakers, not just peacekeepers. And so help our staff and our city and, Lord, everyone to be able to do that. Lord, we just thank you for those who serve, Lord, who give of their time, Lord, even if they get paid, Lord, that this is an act of service. And so we just pray for protection for them, for their families. Lord, we pray for blessing for them and their families, Lord. Father, we just thank you for this time. We pray this all in your son's amazing name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. If you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right. At this time, I'll open the floor for a public forum. If you have something to say, keep it short. Give us your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Matt Schulte. I live at 347 Quail Run Court, which is in the Andover 5th and 6th edition. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak. Been talking with Mr. Magnus about the 159th project, and it has come to our attention that there's going to be a pedestrian median between Lakeside and I believe I don't know how to say it, Borderlac on the city of Wichita side. We were always informed that this was just going to be a flat road, no medians in it. So when it showed up that there was a median being poured, I started asking questions in that. I thought I gave ample time, so I'm coming here to ask what our next step is to try to make a change order to remove this median. I understand there's a crosswalk. We have no problem with the crosswalk. We have no problem with the lights. We just don't want a median in the middle of a 2-lane road. As a former firefighter for the city of Wichita, we hate medians. It imposes police, fire, and EMS ability to get through traffic. And we'd just like to see the median removed from this part of the street project. And that's my question is, what is my next step to see that gets done?
Okay. Very good question. I know we don't have an answer here tonight, but we'll look into it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Anyone else? No? All right. Public forum is closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move to accept the agenda as presented.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Citizens request, 7-1 vending request, Child Start Family Jam Fest, and Daniel will speak to us about this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a quick special event request for you this evening. As you may know, on October 7th, Child Start is hosting the Family Jam Fest at the amphitheater again this year. They were here last fall. Cuckoo Kangaroo is coming back for those interested. Same event format as last year, lots of family activities. There'll be several performances on stage. Event runs from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. There is no official closure, no alcohol sales or consumption, but the event organizers would like to request permission to vend food and regular beverage. And that's the consideration for you tonight. And I'd be happy to answer any of the questions you might have about it.
Do we know what the attendance was like last year, Daniel?
I do not have that right in front of me, but it was in the few hundreds during the course of the event, not thousands.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the sale of goods and services, including food trucks to vend at the Capitol Federal Amphitheater for Family Jam Fest from noon to 7 p.m. on October 7th, 2023.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 8, presentation municipal golf course 2Q report. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great now. It's only 90 degrees. Quite a relief from the last couple of weeks. I'm Dick Stotts. I'm the owner of Oaks Golf. I'm the lessor of the Andover Municipal Golf Course. Second quarter report, which was submitted to the council. I'll just be real brief and kind of review things. The second quarter was very good. Our play rounds were up 17% over a year ago. The cart rentals are up 35% over a year ago. To remind you, Oaks Golf purchased 20, not new, but used golf cars, and it's paying dividends. Just an upgrade from what we had before, and so it's showing very well. One other statistic to figure into that is that the play days, in other words, we track days in which we're either rained out or in the off season snowed out, whatever. Our play days were up for the quarter 5%. So we're up 17% overall, 35 on cart ridership. Play days were up 5%. So you kind of have to attribute 5% of that to a weather advantage over last year. We completed what we call phase 1 of the irrigation capital improvement plan. This was to replace the controllers on the golf course and then make sure all the greens and tees were all working from the controller, all the valves were working, and that has been completed as of the end of quarter 2. We have more money in the budget for phase 2 upcoming. We have not submitted that as yet, but we'll be doing so shortly. I would like to make one other comment. We had a very troublesome irrigation leak right in the middle of the heat a week ago, and city staff just came to our rescue. I can't tell you enough. I think I say almost every quarter that I'm here, it feels like I have partners, and they proved it. They proved it last week when it took us. We battled this leak. We had lots of problems in getting the repairs done. Had it not been for the city, we wouldn't have healthy greens today. They saved our greens, and I'm looking at the fire chief here that contributed there, and I think we got Daniel here and Derek here. Rick isn't here, but they all helped lead the way, and I can't tell you how appreciative I am of our relationship and the staff members that stepped forward in a time of need. With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I have just a couple.
Yeah.
Is 20 enough? I mean, have you found, because we went from 15 to 20 carts.
Is 20 enough for you, or do you perceive?
The city still has 7 cars still, and they don't have any place else. So we just house them.
Okay.
And on overflow, we dipped into that only once or twice have we had to go past the 20.
And then for the second phase of the irrigation,
Mhm.
when's your time frame or your goal?
It'll probably be in the fall of the year. It's going to involve probably irrigation or replacement on greens. I want to get past the summer.
Right. Okay.
Learned that one last week.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
You continue to get a lot of volunteer support from the neighborhood too, isn't that correct?
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I couldn't, I'm so pleased with the relationship. And also I'll let all of you know that when I'm talking with those folks out there, I'll tell them what kind of a partnership I have with the city and spread the word on the help that we receive from all of you.
We're pretty proud of our parks crew as well. So thank you for
They're
mentioning.
great. Thank you.
Yeah. Right, consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve consent agenda items 9.1 through 9.5 as presented.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 2024 budget, revenue neutral rate presentation. And Matt will talk to us about that this evening. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm great. How are you all?
All right.
Well, I'm Matt Kane, City's Finance Director. And as part of our budget process this year, we need to have a couple of public hearings. And so we're going to start off tonight with our revenue neutral rate public hearing. Start with just a little bit about what the revenue neutral rate is. I'm going to start with what's truth in taxation. That's the name that they gave the bill that created the need for us to do the revenue neutral rate hearing during the budget process. Revenue neutral rate is the tax rate in mills, or the number of mills that the city would need to levy in order to generate the same number of property tax revenue in dollars as the prior year. And we would compute that by taking the amount of property tax revenue we received last year divided by this year's property tax valuation, multiply it by 100, or by 1,000, my apologies, by 1,000. That would give us the number of mills, or the mill rate that the city would need to levy to generate the same amount of dollars. So since we're talking about 2024's budget, that means we're comparing to the rate that we're currently levying in 2023, which is 43.727 mills. The revenue neutral rate, using the calculation that we went over on the last slide, for 2024 is 37.913. That difference is generated by an increase in valuation of the city through both increases in property values and through new construction. So in the following the revenue neutral rate hearing, you will also hear a presentation for the budget in which you'll see that the city is intending to levy 5.086 mills above revenue neutral rate. And you might ask why. And that's because the cost of running the city increases the same as other costs for everybody are going up. The city does have planned increases for benefits, personnel, utilities, fuel costs, and some long-term planning for purchases for wastewater, streets, parks, and fire department. The city of Andover also has a lot of growth. We're the fastest growing city in the state with over 10,000 people. And that growth comes with a constant need for new infrastructure, which then has to be maintained. Every pebble we lay takes another, takes more manpower to maintain it, and has to be replaced eventually. So we have to plan for those things. However, growth does have its advantages, and I think it's worth mentioning that the growth in Andover is one of the factors that has enabled this budget to be lower in mill levy than the prior year. So the budget that will be presented tonight is a reduction in the city's mill levy of 0.728 mills.
What does that mean to somebody that doesn't understand like me?
The property tax in dollars is still going up because values have gone up, but the city's levy in mills has gone down. So then this slide just goes over the process, kind of where we've been and where we're going. So we've already done steps 1 and 2. We notified the county clerk that we intended to exceed the revenue neutral rate. We've published in the paper that was on August 12th, and it's been on the city's website. Tonight, we are conducting the public hearings for the revenue neutral rate and for the budget. And then excluding any changes that may occur tonight, we will vote for the budget officially at the next agenda, at the next meeting on September the 12th. And then after it's been approved by October 1st, we have to send the signed and certified copy to the county. Any questions?
No.
Then I would say, Mr. Mayor, if you could please open the public hearing.
All right. At this time, we will open a public hearing in order to receive citizens' comments related to the governing body's intent to exceed the 2024 revenue neutral rate.
Mr. Mayor, before we jump right into that, I did do just a little math real quick that might have helped get a little bit more to the question you answered. How is $16.74 per year? Not major, but a savings.
All right. Any questions from the public? Anyone would like to? Any comments?
Yeah, some comments.
Please state your name,
Steve.
address, and please keep it short.
Thanks for that information there. It's very useful to some of us who are not really too familiar with what's going on, how this is calculated. However, it does end up being about 13% increase on the top of inflation for our residents of Andover. We got senior citizens on fixed rate incomes, got young families in here trying to raise a family on top of all these other things, inflation, buying gas, and then the city wants to put 13% increase on top. Not just a 1 or a 2, but a 13%. I mean, that's just way too much. Way too much. I know you got expenses. You just highlighted those expenses. It's nice to see the city's growing. But I have personally have a colleague who chose to go and live in Mays because he knew about the tax issue in Andover and the fact it was going up next year. And he's got young kids that need to go to school. He went to Mays. That's going to happen again and again and again. And the people that live in Andover, like me, who don't have kids in school anymore, I love this neighborhood. I'm a neighbor of Troy's. We love it. I'm going to have to make a decision about whether I want to stay in Andover. And that's going to happen for a lot more people as well. And, you know, honestly, Andover as it stands is in pretty good shape. I drive all over Kansas, spend a lot of time driving around Butler County. There's a lot worse places in Kansas and a lot worse places in Butler County. So my public comment is maybe 1 or 2. You probably get a lot of public support for that. 13? I don't think so. And that's all I have to say.
Steve, you want to put your name and a address in Andover? I don't think you said that when you walked up.
Sorry?
State your name and
State
your
name and
address.
address.
Steve Church, and I know Homer as well for many, many years. You look great.
Thanks, you do too.
My home address is 738 Westchester Place in Crescent Lakes neighborhood.
To your point, sir, Andover city taxes are lower than Mays city taxes.
It's taxes.
Taxes are a different issue.
I understand. I mean, you can really get into semantics here, but I'm considered, like I said, people on fixed income. We still have a lot of senior citizens in Andover, young families, and all the things that they have to go through with all the things that they've had to bear the increase of, cost of groceries, etc., cost of food. And now we're going to put a 13% tax increase on top of that as well.
But not a city tax increase. We got to be clear when we're saying what the tax is.
I mean, if you talk to young people or you talk to senior citizens, they might say any.
Mine too. I just want to be correct that I want it to be correct that the
For
city.
your records, understand.
Okay,
Understand.
thank you, sir.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Steve.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Like that gentleman said, we are in the similar situation. I just received this letter a couple days ago. And according to this form, I'm anticipating a 15% increase of the property tax in 2024. Our last year property tax increased over 10%. So it's too much. We are on fixed income as well, and it's just too much for us to take. I don't know how long this is going to continue. Like next year, what's the increase percentage? It's going to increase next year. I don't know, and that makes me nervous. And this evening, I went to govsalary.com, which is an open database for everybody to look for public employees. And here's what I found. For Butler County workers who works for the Butler County, especially the administrator, the directors, and everybody who was there. The administrator, he had a 44,000 salary increase, which is like 38% increase of his salary from 2021 to 2022. And the other people there, they also get an increase of 10,000 to 20,000 based on their base salary. Average speaking, looking at 20 to 30% over 2021 to 2022. That's their salary increase. However, the public school teachers in Andover, they only got $2,000 to $3,000 increase, which is less than 5%. I did the calculation, which broke my heart. My kid's teacher, she only got $2,000 increase, which is 4%. I hope that my property tax money can be spent more on frontline workers and teachers. And I don't know who approved that salary budget. I don't know how things work. I don't know how monies are spent on. I know there are a lot of projects going on in city of Andover, but I do hope that my property tax money can be spent more on the teachers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Will you state your name and address for the record?
Name and address.
Sorry, what was the question again? The name and address of who?
You.
Is that important?
Yeah.
For the record, yeah.
For the record, when you speak at the podium.
Okay, my name is Shirlene Zim. My address 1931 North Northridge, Andover.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cheryl Scrimshire, 1715 South Heather Lake Court, Andover. I have lived here 4 years. My husband bought me this house right before he passed away, so I would be able to live in a decent neighborhood, okay? When I first moved here 4 years ago, my property taxes were $3,081.36. This year, it was $4,681.12. That is over a 50% increase in 4 years. I think that's a little ridiculous, especially since Butler County already has the highest taxes, property taxes in Kansas. Thank you.
God bless you.
Anyone else?
Anyone but you?
Not nice.
I really don't need a microphone, but my name's Scott Rackley. I live at 630 East Shade. While there is a 13% increase, it may be high to some, but it's cheaper than where I used to live when I came here 5 years ago. I get that the city's improving, and yes, it needs to be maintained. But let's keep in mind, our property taxes are not generated by the city. Our property taxes are generated by Butler County. Whenever you receive the thing in the mail, you always have the right to protest your property taxes. We as Andover citizens, if we are so dead set on the property taxes being so high, we need to protest Butler County, not the city level. We also have a community college. That is part of our taxes. The Andover school system, everybody loves. That's part of our property taxes. There's more to the property tax than just the mill levy. Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Anyone else? Just a reminder, we're citizens too, and ours went up. Mine went up $183 a month. I'm not happy about it either, but there's nothing I can do about it as a city official. In reality is the city of Andover has lower city taxes than all the cities around us, other than Wichita, city taxes. We have absolutely no control over Butler County taxes or the community college taxes. As much as we would like to think we could, we do not. So, but we do appreciate y'all coming and speaking, and you're always welcome. All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, we don't have any, do we have any decision over the school funds either?
No.
No. And then Tim, I think Tim brought this up maybe last year or earlier this year, you know, the Butler County has a way for you to, you know, and Scott mentioned it as well, go to the website and say that I don't agree with that valuation.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I have one thing to add. I think this is Mike. I think it'll be a little more clear on what our tax is, our city tax, our county tax, college and school taxes, probably in 10.3, which I think we have a slide in there under the 24 budget presentation that everybody would probably like to see, that will make it clear about where we are.
You?
Yeah, I guess it would be important for everyone to understand the right place to go to protest their property tax, because we don't really have control over that, at least the increases of it. I feel it was pretty ridiculous the last couple of years, it being a double digit both years. That's a result of the value of the homes that are here and that they keep going up in value. And if they continue to keep going up in value, that raises everyone's values of their homes. So it's it's a tough situation to be in, especially if you are on a fixed income. But the city really can't do much about that. It would definitely be something to go to the county to talk about. But even with that, it's the appraiser's office. And I feel like that's disconnected from the county's ability to control as well. JT's got his hand on the mic. Were you going to say something?
No, I just want to make sure that because we published the time that we let the public speak and then you can close the public hearing if everybody's.
Oh, we haven't closed the public hearing.
And so you want a 10-2 or 10-3?
We need
We
to
should
finish
close
the,
the public hearing
so to be very clear for everybody here tonight, because this is the world we live in and every day and not everybody does. So this is the revenue neutral rate hearing. This isn't a new-ish in the last few years mandated hearing by the state of Kansas to indicate that your local government units are going to go above last year's budget by even $1. That's what we're doing right now. And now we're in the public hearing part of that. If there are no more comments, we can close that, and then we'll transition to the budget presentation and hearing, which has been a long time requirement by the state of Kansas, where we actually go into what we're going to spend our local tax dollars on for 2024, and then we will have a hearing to discuss that budget.
All right. Anyone else? And we do appreciate your comments regardless of how it comes off, all right? So at this time, if no one has anything else to say, we'll close the public hearing and we'll move on to 10-3.
I think we're getting a slide here in a second, maybe. All right, perfect. Clicker, yes, I would love the clicker. Okay, Mayor, Council, and public, I am pleased to introduce to you your 2024 budget proposed. I do want to give a little bit of backstory again, mostly for the public's value, those watching on TV, streaming, and are here today. This is not the first time the governing body has heard this information. Back on June 18th, we spent a full day in this room doing a budget retreat. Each of the department heads presented what they were requesting for 2024, and that budget has not changed since June 18th. What was presented on June 18th was palatable to the governing body, and that is what's being presented to you tonight. The point I want to start with is that although the documents you all receive that are mandated by the state and indicate an increase, it's an increase in the revenues that are being received, but that's that two-part correlation. The value of your homes have increased, and that makes then the amount that you pay increase. But the mill levy, what the city is charging, has actually gone down what we're proposing for 2024. It's a 0.728 mill reduction. As I indicated earlier, not probably going to make a big difference in anybody's annual budget, but it is our attempt at being mindful of the fact that everybody's values have increased. We've heard that feedback from the public. The governing body's heard that feedback and has given direction to the staff to stay flat or preferred reduce. And so that's what we're presenting to you tonight. The fire district, which is for those individuals who live in the Andover Fire District #1, but do not live in the Andover city limits, their mill levy is increasing slightly. It's going up from 11.62 to 11.878 in the 2024 budget. And they are paying for that service. That's why they are charged separately. A slide that Mr. Warrington referred to earlier we'll get to, and you can see that in some other communities as well. Earlier, Matt mentioned that a lot of our increase in valuation is due to new growth, and then there's that property valuation piece. So there's $24 million of property value growth. I do want to indicate this is not just real estate. It is also personal property and the state assessed utilities, but we know a large part of that is those increases that everybody received in the mail. We did have over $6 million of brand new growth built in Andover and added to the tax rolls. And then we also, because we offer a neighborhood revitalization program, those are 5-year limited programs. And as those meet their 5-year maturation, they come back onto the tax rolls. And so we have just about $250,000 coming back on for 2024. The major budget highlights that drive the need for that extra money above the revenue neutral rate are these items. We are requesting a 5% raise pool for employees in 2024. This comes into about $250,000 across city employment, and we have just over 100 employees across the city. Our health and dental, we have budgeted a 14% increase. This ends up being about $1 million increase in revenues for benefits. We acknowledge that's high, but we also acknowledge that it has been high year over year over year with double-digit increases. And so the city took a strategic step forward, and in July 1st, we became self-funded, meaning now with a third-party administrator, we process all of those claims, and the money that's being paid in premium is going directly to pay claims and build a fund to pay those claims in the future. We're trying to take control of our health benefits spending instead of just paying a carrier to assume that risk and then pay them a profit on top of it. What we mean, why I bring that up, why I think that's important is, yes, it's significant for this year. It will probably be a significant increase again next year. It should then level out, if not maybe reduce in years forward, because we're going to take control of that item. And that's an increase for employers across the nation. We are adding 3 new full-time employees across the organization. Yes, sir?
I just wanted to point out the first line, because it was brought up earlier about the significant pay raises. I think it was county officials, 30, 40%. 5% is what the average was here, not 30 and 40% in the city of Andover, which is all we have control over. Just to let you know. Okay, thanks.
Sure. The new additions of staff that are being requested is a new police officer. Again, this is largely related to the growth of the community. The police department went through a pretty extensive staffing study in 2020, brought in an outside consultant to look at the growth rate of the city and determine how many employees needed to be added year over year in order to keep service where we needed it. I would like to note the study indicated 2 police officers for 2024, and we are not recommending that. We are recommending 1. We will add that additional officer on the tail end of that study, but being mindful of trying to reduce the mill levy, we didn't add the 2nd police officer for 2024. We feel like we're at a place where adding the 1 allows us to get the response that we need across the community. The new parks full-time employee, as many of you may remember, in November of 2021, Family Future Forward sales tax initiative was passed by a 2-to-1 margin in the city of Andover, and that came with it an entire rehaul of our 13th Street Sports Park. That is going to include a destination playground as well as a brand new splash pad. And that will not be the only splash pad added to the city in 2024. Another one is being added at the brand new fire station. All of those Family Future Forward projects. We have 0 splash pads today, so we have nobody trained or prepared to deal with that. And so we need to get our staffing up, because we understand, as you've probably seen a lot of headlines, splash pads can cause lots of trouble if you don't get those maintained correctly. So we are requesting 1 new parks employee full-time, as well as additional seasonal hours to help with those issues in the summer months, as that's when the need will be the heaviest. The streets department is also requesting a full-time employee. That is due to the number of street lights that have been added in our community in the last few years. Certainly when a street light goes down and the driving public is expecting that light to be there and suddenly it's not working, that can create driving hazards. And so we do call people out to work and maintain those street lights. They can use some additional help because of the number of street lights that we've added in the last several years. KPNF is our pension program for our police and firefighters. The rate that the city contributes and all employers who have KPNF covered members is set by the state, much like the CAPERS program, of which we are not a member. We do not cover all civil employees through CAPERS. We have a private retirement with a contribution for other civilian employees, but KPNF is set by the state, and they set the contribution for 2024 at 23.1%. That is a 0.24, about a 0.25% increase for all of the police and firefighters in that program, which is all police and firefighters. The overall budget comes in at $35.5 million. And when you take transfers out, it is just over $33 million. The operating budget, which is the day-to-day needs of the city, makes up about 2/3 of that. Those are the kind of big dollar items in more of an operating scope, but the things that really drive city spending when you look at that big number are these capital projects. These are the big dollar items. This is where we spend a lot of our time as the council members meet with department heads to talk about budget. This is where we spend a lot of time. So I'm going to put the next 5 slides towards capital outlay. The wastewater plant, in this continued vein of we're growing and our infrastructure has to grow with us, the wastewater plant must update and expand the plant in 2024. This is something that we've been working on with consultants over the last year. It is estimated to be right around $30 million to expand the wastewater plant. A great deal of the need for the wastewater plant expansion is again mandated by the federal government and KDHE for treatment requirements. So as we grow, we have to keep our wastewater at a certain level of treatment. And this is the project that we will be doing in 2024. They have a few small items equipment-wise, and then I do want to talk a little bit about the specials petitions. You're going to see this on this slide as well as the next slide. A couple of years ago, the governing body made an economic development decision to help infill neighborhoods that had been platted for an extended period of time, many years, and had failed to develop. They'd been platted, but basically left sitting. And so as part of a desire to infill instead of expanding our infrastructure further, clearly that's an expensive thing to do, is to expand infrastructure, but to infill was to offer paying 25% of the specials for these infill neighborhoods in order to make them develop quicker. So there are some specials payments that will be coming out of wastewater as well out of streets in 2024. The biggest driver of your streets capital outlays are 2 new roads. And these, the good news, are funded $8.5 million by base grants. And those are federal dollars trickled down through the state because of COVID recovery and put through the Department of Commerce. There was a competitive grant process, and the city did receive 2 grants, one for Yorktown Parkway. One for Yorktown Parkway, one for Founders Parkway. Those roads will be built in 2024. Yorktown will pick up at Central and continue north to 13th Street so that we will have a second north-south street from 13th Street all the way south of US 54 to Minnehaha. Founders Parkway is going to be your backage road for US 54. If you're not aware, we will be expanding US 54. KDOT will be expanding US 54, and we will be a strong partner in that. What is incumbent is to get the backage roads in place so that we can have internal circulation in our community, because for many years, US 54 will be under construction in the imminent future. So we need to take care of getting some better circulation in and around our community so that we can continue to live and thrive during that time in a meaningful way. There's also some equipment that I would say is largely minor when you look at the rest of these things. Parks Department has some of those sales tax projects that I talked about earlier. That's this almost entire first column except for the mower replacement at the bottom. So these are sales tax dollars. These are coming in, part of your 1 cent sales tax that you pay anytime you buy something in the city of Andover. We are going to add the fire station park. We're renovating 13th Street Sports Park, and you will see a greatly improved facility out at 13th Street Sports Park this spring and summer. Another item that we certainly didn't intend to spend in 2024 was to redo Central Park. Those of you that have maybe not been to Central Park recently may be wondering where the missing building is across the street. And unfortunately, the lodge was one of the things to go in the tornado's path in 2022. You also might notice that the hedgerow that used to form an east side barrier and really make Central Park what many feel is an oasis is very haphazard and largely gone. We have insurance money to help pay for some of that, but dealing with the long-term recovery committee and many of the homeowners who have dealt with the tornado, the money that we're getting from insurance is not going to entirely cover the cost to rebuild the lodge. And so we will be utilizing some parks improvement money to help rebuild the lodge in 2024.
And Jenny, how many acres of parks do we have about 10 acres of parks coming on in 2024 that are new with the redesign of 13th, the Heritage Plaza?
Heritage
Square.
Plaza
Plaza.
is 9 acres of linear park that will come on new this year. That is a huge addition. 13th Street Sports Park is 60 acres, 56 acres. It is going to be a different configuration. So I'm glad you bring that up, Councilman Henry. We had 4 baseball fields previously. Now we will have 5, and baseball fields have to be maintained to a different standard with a different level of skill than just mowing open green grass. The splash features that I referred to earlier certainly will take a more skilled level of work and skills that we don't currently have on our staff to maintain those items.
And the fire playground park, that would be about another acre, right? Roughly,
Should be another acre.
give or
yeah.
take,
Yeah.
couple.
Yep.
So, and we didn't just come up that we needed splash pads. I mean, for the audience here and some of the people the folks that were here knew, I think it should be brought up that we took a survey of the city, and the reason that we're installing splash pads is because a need arose out of that survey. And I think it was surprising, at least to myself, that was such a want from the community. And so here we are producing 2 splash pads, a north and a south one, if you will.
And the ball diamonds, by the way, are also built in a manner that if it rains on Monday, they won't still be flooded out on Friday as they were currently. So the steps we're taking are for the betterment of families.
The fire department will finish up their Family Future Forward projects in 2024, which will include a remodel of the current station. When we've talked about Family Future Forward and the need for it, but I think it's worth mentioning again here. It's not just a cosmetic remodel of an old building. The building was not built for anyone to stay overnight in the 1990s. When that building was built, there were no career firefighters on staff. Now we have 18 career firefighters that are full-time, as well as a host of volunteer firefighters who do on occasion spend the night as well when they cover shifts, which is a great budgetary help to the community. What we have made do with has largely dorm-style communal living with a changing workforce. We know that that's not really where we want to be going in the future. And so the remodel will allow us to have individual sleeping quarters for the firefighters so that we can take on a more diverse workforce. So I just went through wastewater, streets, parks, and fire. And between those groups, they are all spending, those departments, their projects are all north combined of $50 million. All other departments' capital projects are grouped here, and they all together come in under $1 million. So these are what I would consider small dollars compared to everything else we've talked about in the last few moments. The one I want to point again, because I want to thank our federal partners and those that stand by to try to help us where they can. This RMS CAD system for dispatch, which is a significant amount of their capital purchases in 2024, is being paid for by a federal earmark that Senator Moran was able to secure for us. And we're very grateful to the senator for that assistance, largely as a concern out of the tornado. This is the slide that I believe Councilman Warrington was talking about. I wish the folks that had just left were able to see this. I'm sorry, I went too long on the other things, but this does break down each city in Butler County as well as each city in Sedgwick County. And if it's a little small, so if you can't see, this first column is what county you're in. The next column is your city mill rate. The next column is your state and your county. And what I really want to point out here is you're going to see that all these Sedgwick counties, some are 30 and some are 48. Those that are 48 are paying 18 mills to Sedgwick County for fire service. So in fairness, when you're looking at Goddard's 31, not to pick on Goddard, but we will, 31, and you add another 18 for 49 compared to your city of Andover at 43. This is where the mayor's coming from, that the city of Andover and all the services we provide, we are doing for at a lower mill rate than any other city in Butler or Sedgwick County, with the exception of Wichita. And I would contend with the economies of scale in a city of 500,000, we're never going to beat that one. Just another visual depiction of that same information. And I do believe that is my last slide. So I would be happy to answer any questions from the governing body. If and when you are finished with questions, then Mr. Mayor, I would ask you to go ahead and open that public hearing for any comments the public would like to make about the budget. And I would remind everyone in the room that tonight we are not taking actual action. Councilman Tabor raised a good point, I think 2 years ago, when he said, you know, we really probably shouldn't make the next item on the agenda approval of the budget, because we're doing this with a hearing. And if you get some feedback at the hearing, or if one of you comes up with an idea, albeit maybe somewhat last minute at this point, where you say we'd like to see a change or something needs to be done differently, that does allow us to come back and present to you the final budget for approval on September 12th.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Janie, can we put the that mill levy comparison on our social media so people can see that? So if anyone has questions with where we are, that's a good go by.
Yes, sir, we can do that.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Any questions from the governing body? No?
No, sir.
All right, at this time, I will again open the floor for a public hearing. State your name and your address and keep it short, please. And I misspoke when I said that mine went up $183. Mine went up $183 a month. So we too feel your pain. Anyone have anything to offer? All right. Public forum is closed. Comprehensive plan, Justin Constantino will speak to us about that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Justin Constantino, Assistant Director of Community Development. The City of Andover Comprehensive Plan defines the general location, character, extent, and relationship of future land uses within the city and the greater planning area. The plan promotes the desired land use pattern and addresses growth framework related to infrastructure, transportation, housing diversity, and urban design. In addition to being a requirement by Kansas state statute, the plan is one of the most important guiding documents that the city utilizes and is always considered by staff when making decisions pertaining to zoning and land use. The city signed an agreement with the Olson Studio back in March of 2022 to develop the comprehensive plan with significant input from citizens, advisory boards, staff, and elected officials with a primary focus on public participation. The project formally kicked off in July of 2022 with the first of 2 joint City Council Planning Commission meetings that were workshop meetings. We launched an extensive public outreach campaign, including a public survey, demographic-specific meeting events targeting the development community and our Andover youth, a half-day visioning workshop, a multi-day citywide planning charrette, and a virtual public open house. A final draft of the comprehensive plan was published on the comprehensive plan website, activateandover.com, and was open for public comment from March 8th through March 22nd. The Olson Studio presented key findings of the new comprehensive plan to the City Council and Planning Commission at their second joint City Council Planning Commission meeting in March of 2023. On July 18th, 2023, the Planning Commission adopted a resolution and recommended that the City Council approve the Activate Andover 2024 to 2033 Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. Before I turn it over to Taylor Plummer from the Olson Studio, I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Justin.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Good to be with you all again. Like Justin said, my name is Taylor Plummer. I'm a senior planner with Olson Studio. It's been great to work with Andover over the past year and a couple months. It's been a fun process, a lot of public engagement. So my presentation tonight will be fairly brief for the depth of content that is really within a comprehensive plan. So I'm happy to answer questions, of course, as we move along. So a quick reminder on what a comprehensive plan is, what its scope, what its purpose is. Like Justin said, it is a requirement of Kansas state statutes. Andover updates theirs on a 10-year time period. So now we're at the 2024 to 2033 timeframe. Crazy to be thinking about the 2030s. But a comp plan really looks at the long-term future of a community, looking at goals and desires, plans, projects to really improve the community and carry it into the future. Obviously, public engagement, stakeholder engagement is a very critical piece of the plan's development. So I want to recap that, which Justin touched on this, but just to see all of these bulleted out to show you the range of engagement exercises that we conducted. For our stakeholder group, which was officially called the Comprehensive Plan Stakeholder Group, CPSG, It was a group of about 40, 50 individuals that represented a cross-section of the Andover community. We worked with them through multiple events, those being a visioning workshop back on August 11th, a little over a year ago, the citywide planning charrette, which was a multi-day event, October 12th through the 14th, a business and development community meeting, as well as a youth community meeting on September 29th, and then a final draft plan review meeting with our stakeholder group earlier this year in February. On the public engagement side, we had a booth, had a tent at the National Night Out and Fire Police Cookout on August 2nd of last year, and had a presence at Greater Andover Days on September 30th and October 1st. That was staffed by our subconsultant, Jane Siemens with Venice Communications. So just want to recognize that it was a larger team than just Olson Studio. We had some great partners. We also conducted a virtual public open house that was open for a little less than a month from October 18th through November 10th. That virtual open house focused on presenting the draft concepts that we came up with and vetted with the stakeholders and city staff during the citywide planning charrette earlier that October. And then once we had an actual draft plan in place, an actual document written, from March 8th through 22nd of this year, we posted that online via the project website, activateandover.com, and received public comment on all of the vast pages of the plan. The next few slides just break down the very key components of the plan itself. This slide illustrates an outline of the document. The first two sections are basic overview information, setting the stage for what a comprehensive plan is, so that anyone reading the document can understand its purpose and scope. Section 2, still a part of that introductory information, starts to dive a little bit deeper. It states the vision for the plan, the core values, the goals, and the strategies. Those goals and strategies, it's just quite a bit of text, but it breaks down different priorities and recommendations for the plan, which are then further illustrated in sections 3 through 5 in the illustrative recommendation sections that are more topic focused. Activated places, which focuses on land use and growth development. Activated connections, that's your transportation section. Activated character, that's aesthetics and streetscape, so how the community looks. And then the last section, section 6, is about implementation. Who's responsible for what and by when, and what are those key action steps to actually realize the plan. This pyramid graphic here demonstrates the breakdown of the plan, or those core pieces. This is fairly common language, nothing too crazy for a long-range planning document. But obviously start with that vision statement, which I'll show here in just a second. That's that overarching aspirational statement that should guide the city for the next 10 years when it comes to land use and development and transportation, et cetera. The values then break down the vision, and then so on and so forth. The goals work to achieve the values, strategies to achieve the goals, and then implementation actions are those most detailed tasks that really start to break down all of the ideas and recommendations into more bite-sized pieces. So this is the vision statement. Andover aspires to be a complete community that welcomes all people, supports a diverse economy, encourages fun and vibrancy, and integrates the natural environment. This is a graphic illustrating and identifying the different core values. We have connected networks and efficient transportation, vibrant lifestyles and distinctive identity, sustainable design and environmental stewardship, effective government and public participation, growing economy and widespread opportunity, and robust neighborhoods and attainable housing. So then those goals and strategies are organized by these 6 different core values. So you'll see a section of goals and strategies for each one of these. Again, goals, fairly common terminology here, but that's more of the what we want to achieve, where strategies are more of the how. How are we going to get there? And then again, implementation actions get even more detailed. So I want to end the presentation by going through those 3 topic sections, the first of which is activated places, focused on the land use, growth, and development aspects. So a little bit different than the previous comprehensive plan, or I should say current comprehensive plan. Instead of traditional land use categories, future land use categories, we are going with something called place types. It's a fancy word, a fancy phrase within the planning world, but essentially it takes a little bit more comprehensive of a look at land use and development and planning for those future uses. So we've got 12 different categories, and those are mapped on a place type map that I'll show here in a few slides. I wanted to give some context, some examples of what these place types look like. This is a sampling of what is in the document. One of those place type categories is neighborhood corridor. The corridor piece of that indicates that it's land uses along a more linear stretch, along a corridor, a roadway, a thoroughfare. And then we also list out the typical uses. So you can see those up on the screen. And typical amenities. That's something that is unique to place types, is starting to look at the character, amenities, what actually makes up a place and what makes it a nice place to be. The live, work, play idea. City corridor, I wanted to show this one to show that there is some repetition in these place type categories. This corridor idea is repeated, as well as another one I'll show you here on the next slide. This city's corridor is a little bit larger scale. And all of these place type graphics also have this 3D graphic, which definitely want to say these are not meant to be representative of every single development that would come within this sort of place type category. It's just an idea, just a concept to show how that could be implemented, and to also demonstrate the diversity and mixture of uses within these different place types. That's an important feature, is the idea of mixing land uses to create more complete places in more areas of the community. Neighborhood center, so kind of the complement to neighborhood corridor, but center is going to be more of a hub, more of a node, but again, listing out those typical uses and typical amenities. Within the document itself, each place type, I believe, is given about a 2-page spread of information on its purpose, the different uses and amenities, providing more detail on that, some precedent imagery, the 3D graphic. So there's a lot more context, which will be useful for staff and for you all, and for Planning Commission as they make development decisions in the future. And then again, the complement city center, a little bit larger scale, again, just showing that hub, that node concept. And then one example to show you of residential neighborhoods. One thing we heard a lot through the engagement process was just allowing for more housing types. So we did identify some areas within the community to allow for different housing formats, and then appropriately blending those within single family neighborhoods, and how to do that well. So this is the map that shows where those place types fall within the community. You can see the largest by far is traditional neighborhood, which I didn't have a slide on that one in the previous few. But more of your typical single family residential neighborhood. You can see those city centers are more concentrated along your major roadways, obviously Kellogg and Andover, and then up at Central. The next topic is mobility and connectivity. So this map demonstrates some recommendations related to vehicle travel as well as pedestrians and bike travel as well. A lot of these, well, I'd say a fair amount of these recommendations came from the Parks and Recreation Playbook 2030, which was the Parks and Recreation Plan. I think partly where the preference for splash pads came that you were all just talking about. This map is important just to show recommendations for that internal connectivity. Again, like Jenny was saying, those backage roads, they're on either side of 54-400 to continue that circulation within the city, as well as some new roadway connections, some new trail connections, which is what we're calling shared use paths. Those are largely just wider sidewalks. We also show a proposed greenway trail following the floodplain, primarily kind of on the southeast portion of the community, and then highlight the existing Redbud Trail, as that's a great opportunity to capitalize on for active transportation. And then lastly, activated character. So aesthetics and character, mainly making sure that people know that you're entering Andover and that Andover has a unique identity. That's, again, something we heard a lot of during our public engagement and stakeholder engagement activities. So we've recommended different locations for primary and secondary gateways. Those primary gateways are largely going to be larger monumentation to say, hey, you are now in Andover, to make it recognizable. Those secondary gateways, that could be something like smaller monumentation, landscaped accents, things like that, but a little bit smaller in nature than those primary gateways. We've identified some key streetscape corridors. Those corridors where most people travel, you want to make sure you're making having a good image for the community, which a lot can be done within the public right-of-way, as you know. So that's looking at consistent sidewalks, street trees, street lights that are consistent, just consistent landscaping and parkways along the roadways as well. This graphic also carries over those proposed roadway connections just to demonstrate the connectivity and show you the reasoning behind some of those gateway placements. So that is the same information that's on the mobility and connectivity framework plan. That is what I have for you all. That's a very quick synopsis, even though that was a little bit longer presentation of everything that's within the document. But just want to thank you all for letting us work with you all and your community. It's been very fun, rewarding. So it was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions? All right. Thank you very much. All right. Temporary permit.
Mr. Mayor,
Excuse me.
did we approve it?
Oh, pardon me. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve
That-
the Activate Andover Comprehensive Plan 2024 to 2033.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Joe, still with us?
Yep, still here.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just wanted to go ahead and thank everybody involved with that plan. We've been working on it for about 1.5 years now. So obviously, elected officials had a lot to do with that plan. I wanted to thank the Olson Studio for working so well with us. All the members of our comprehensive plan stakeholder group, some of whom are in the audience this evening, I wanted to thank them as well. Members of our technical committee included several staff members. and most importantly, the residents of Andover for really showing out for that plan and for offering some really wonderful opinions. That really is, to reiterate, the most important aspect of that plan. So I did want to thank our residents as well.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it, buddy.
Did we see a lot of community involvement more than in past times, or less, or?
The public engagement was substantially more than it was 10 years ago. Our stakeholder group was at least twice the size it was 10 years ago. The online presence of the plan and input from the public made it really easy for folks to look at the plan and make comments without having to arrange to make scheduled meetings. They could work around their own schedules. It was great public engagement. We got a lot of good ideas and a lot of good input from our constituents. I always tell Justin that the most important part of his job is to understand his constituents, and that process helped.
Thanks, Les. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, sir. All right. Now, temporary condition, temporary zoning permit.
Sure. Good evening again, Mayor and Council. The subject property is located at the northwest corner of US 54 and 159th Street. The applicant is requesting a temporary zoning permit to allow for a pumpkin patch at that subject property. Per the Unified Development Manual, the temporary uses of a pumpkin patch, holiday tree sales require governing body approval. So you may be familiar with this. Some of you, we do this year after year. Over the past 5 years, this subject property has received 10 temporary zoning use permits, 6 for pumpkin patches, 2 for holiday tree sales in 2018 and 2019, 1 for a Valentine's Day sales event in 2018, and 1 for a circus in 2020. The property currently contains several permanent or semi-permanent structures. You can see the aerial displayed on the page there, as well as in your packets. You can see some of those structures. Those structures were not permitted by the city of Andover. Some of those structures include 2 storage barns, 1 open-air storage structure. The property also contains at least 2 smaller wood structures with roofs, and there also appear to be several temporary trailers located on the site. The property is surrounded by wood-staked fencing. There is also further fencing internal to the site behind that existing fence. All of those existing structures that I mentioned appear to be accessory uses that are lacking a corresponding principal use. The subject property has a base zoning of B4, Central Business Mixed Use District, which allows for outdoor storage as a conditional use, but the city has not received any conditional use applications for the subject property for any of the outdoor storage. No zoning violations have been issued by the city. Staff recommends that all the existing structures be removed by the property owner on the subject property 30 days after this pumpkin patch event to return the subject property to its undeveloped state as a condition of the approval this evening. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Chief Buchanan, I don't think the traffic situation at 159th is any worse with this than it would be at 4th of July. In
No,
regards to
sir, it's a lot
150.
less. 4th of July is very busy, but not for this.
Any questions?
What, Justin, has there been talk before on removing these temporary buildings?
I think
Is the applicant in agreement to be removing those after the pumpkin patch is through?
I'm not sure if the applicant is in agreement with that. I know it's discussions that have been brought up before amongst elected officials, amongst staff. And really what it is, whenever we look at any site for a temporary use, we're looking to see if there's any violations or anything like that. Obviously, as I mentioned, given the history of this property, a lot of these uses, whether it's a pumpkin patch or a seasonal event or fireworks, structures appear for those events and they don't always necessarily come down. So the point of me bringing that particular item up with raising those items is basically to get it cleaned up, just so it returns to its undeveloped state, so that we're not continuously sort of approving these temporary uses for a property that doesn't have a principal primary use.
Thanks, Justin. Sure. Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the request to operate a pumpkin patch at 1600 West US 54 from September 18th, 2023 through November 3rd, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Thursday and 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Friday through Sunday.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
13, Uniform Public Offense Code. Buck Buchanan, Chief Buchanan, I'm sorry, will speak to us about that 2023 ordinance.
Yes, sir. This is just our annual, where we come to the council, approve changes that have been made to the UPOC that's in your packet for you. Nothing significant that I've seen through it. Our city attorney has gone through this and made the changes from the previous years. And now we're just presenting to you to approve this, the UPOC.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt and approve an ordinance incorporating by reference the Uniform Public Offense Code for Kansas Cities, 39th edition, as published by the League of Kansas Municipalities in 2023, with the modifications contained therein.
Second. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Standard traffic offense 2023 ordinance. Again, Chief Buchanan will talk to us.
And this will be the same way. Usually some of the additions and changes, our city attorney's already gone through those. I've looked them over as well, and nothing major significance changed. So the exact same thing. This is for our traffic side of it that we're presenting to you tonight for approval.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move to adopt and approve an ordinance incorporating by reference the standard traffic ordinance for the Kansas Cities 50th edition as published by the League of Kansas Municipalities in 2023.
Second. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 15, Cox Communications Service Agreement, and Neil Coleman will talk to us about it.
Mr. Mayor, council members, good evening. Good to see you again. For your consideration this evening is a 36-month annual renewal of the city's Cox agreement, Cox Communications. The previous agreement was for 60 months. However, it's expiring soon. So we have renegotiated a 36-month agreement. It does increase the annual expenditures by about $20,000. However, the amount will be reclaimed by disabling some services that we have with a second vendor that we'll be able to discontinue services with, and that'll be a pretty much wash on the amount. Benefits with the new agreement with Cox will that all of our city sites will be upgraded to fiber, so no more copper connections. Everything will be fiber. It'll be 200 by 20, which is about 2 times faster download speeds, 10 times faster upload speeds, and we will maintain a copper connection for redundancy. So we'll now have 2 internet connections to all major city sites, getting fiber to the small sites such as parks, waste, streets. Right now, they're using a service that is there some days it's not. So we get a lot out of the new agreement. It'll also provide a co-managed approach to all city firewalls. So this will provide better security, and myself or Cox will have the right to manage the new firewall system. So we'll have a little backup there, a little redundancy. This updated agreement was accounted for in the 2024 proposed budget. So I'll answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the Cox Communications Services Agreement as presented.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Rick?
Public Works and Utility Department purchase. And it says Lance Onstop, but you two don't look like him.
I'll gladly let them handle it. So go for it, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have a special purchase request for you this evening. It has to do with the holiday lights that you're all familiar with here at Central Park. You're probably also familiar, we're replacing the roof here at the City Hall. And reviewing with Rick and Derek and everybody that's involved with the annual display, we're always looking at ways to make that system more cost effective, more time efficient for our staff. And we've been, for a few seasons now, starting to explore more permanent lighting fixtures. Derek has really taken a lead on looking into some of these options, researching that. And we actually have we've done a dry run, I guess you could say, at the Central Park gazebo with a certain type of product we'd like to seek your approval on this evening. The total expense you'll see in your packet is a little over $36,000. We have an annual line item in Parks and Recreation of $28,000 to put towards the inventory of product that we put out each year. And that helps replace and replenish dated equipment or stuff that's just reached the end of its life cycle. So we'd like to push that portion of those dollars towards this effort. And then, as you're also aware, we've been able to underspend a portion of our 13th Street Sports Park operating dollars this year, as we've been under construction for about half of the season. So we have some substantial savings in our grounds lines there, turf and tree care lines at that property, and facility care, et cetera. If you have any questions about the product itself, Derek will be able to answer it, but essentially it's a permanent fixture, would go on, match the roof, be controllable remotely and online, and compatible with some of the other systems that we already use to sync with the displays of that match with songs and et cetera at Hometown Christmas. But we're hoping to make this improvement, realize some staff time savings, some significant staff time savings each year. It'd also be up during 4th of July, other events in the park, programmable for those, and not just restricted to just the holiday season. But if you have any other questions, we'd try our best to answer them for you.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a couple questions. All right. Daniel, or maybe Derek, if one section goes out, does the whole thing go out? Or is it in?
No, sir.
Six
It's each individual light is controlled in its own.
Okay. And then as presented, the 36, is that everything in the red and yellow on here?
Yep.
So it's everything. Okay. That's all I got.
Anyone else?
Will we eventually plan on doing the library, or would that come separate? You know, I mean, I know I'm a huge proponent of doing the park up for Christmas, that kind of stuff, and I think even the city was interested. We had a third party look at coming in and doing a light show, here. Is there room for the library in the future, or is that, to kind of give the two buildings connectivity?
Sure, most certainly there is. And the expense for 36K is to have the vendor also install that product. We've installed on the gazebo. If we moved into doing the library or the amphitheater, maybe the lodge at some point, I think we'll be able to have the bandwidth at that time to do self-install at those times, and have a little bit less expense per linear foot, if you want to put it that way, of that product.
All right. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the purchase of the LED lighting system for City Hall in the amount of $36,222.97 from Tropical Christmas Lights, Olathe, Kansas.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion?
Do we have an ETA on when the roof will be done or when these lights then will be done?
It's getting close. The lights will take a little bit of time. We'd hope to have them in on this season.
Will you have to wait till the roof's done before you can put these up? Okay.
I think the latest update from Mahaney is they're close to maybe 70% complete.
Oh, okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Derek and Daniel. Appreciate it. Good work, young man. All right. The moment we've all been waiting for, 17.
Mr. Mayor?
May I? It was
Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
executive session 17-1 land acquisition KSA 75-4319B6.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to recess into executive session for discussions relating to acquisition of real property per KSA 75-4319B6. Session include governing body, city attorney and associate, city administrator, assistant city administrator, and the director of community development, and resume an open session at 8:36.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Would these gentlemen be traveling with us?
Is that possible?
Yes, sir.
Move to come out of executive session.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries
4-0.
4-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Mhm.
I move to recess into executive session for discussions relating to the acquisition of real property per KSA 75439B6. Session to include governing body, city attorney and associate, city administrator, assistant city administrator, and the director of community development, and resume an open session at 8:52.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to come out of executive session.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. All right, I drew a blank. Member items, we'll start with Homer.
I think it was 5.
5?
I don't think we have Joe.
Okay. 5-0.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just want to talk about, we got GAD coming up. We've got the chamber cornhole coming up. And if you haven't done it, go to the city website. It's pretty awesome, new. It's easy to see the upcoming events. So, if you're looking for something to do on the weekend, definitely visit our website first and see what the calendar holds for entertainment and the like. That's all I have, I think. Thank you.
Shelby?
No items.
I have nothing.
No items tonight?
Just a couple. Kids are back in school. Make sure we pay attention to the school zone flashings. I know those just seem to kind of pop up out of nowhere sometimes, along with the school bus stop signs. So make sure you stop at the school bus stop signs. I do want to wish my youngest a happy 15th birthday today. So
Nice.
yeah, that's all I got.
Mhm.
Thank you for mentioning, telling him happy birthday for me, by the way. And thank you for mentioning the school buses because they were up from 30 tickets to 100 last year. That's a big, big jump.
Wow.
Yeah, 30 to 100. So thanks for mentioning that because it's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Mike, you have anything, brother?
Nothing tonight.
I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
Nothing tonight, but thank you.
All right. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
We didn't say anything about this as Lance's last council meeting.
Is this the last one?
Is it good? Yeah. Yeah, definitely. This is his last.